It's a little after 1 in the morning and you're back in your cabin. The lights are off. There's that faint hum coming up through the hole, the one you stopped noticing around day 2. And the ship has gone quiet in that particular way it does after midnight. The hallway outside is empty. The pool deck above you is roped off. You close your eyes, and somewhere in the back of your head is the comfortable assumption that the ship is more or less doing what you're doing, winding down, coasting, on autopilot until morning. Here's the thing though, the ship doesn't sleep, it just changes shift. And if you could get up right now and walk it deck by deck, you'd find that the quiet you're hearing isn't the sound of a ship resting, it's the sound of a second city clocking in. One with its own drivers, its own bakers, its own cleaners, its own night watch, powering up the moment the first city goes to bed. Most passengers never see a minute of it. So let's walk it. Because if everyone's asleep, there's an obvious question worth answering first. Who exactly is driving this thing? Go up, all the way up, to the bridge. The first thing you'd notice is that it's dark. Not dim, genuinely dark, deliberately so, because at night the interior lights get killed to protect the officer's night vision. And on most ships, that's not a preference, it's a requirement. The only glow comes from the radar and the electronic chart displays, that soft green and amber wash. And standing there in it, watching the black water ahead, is one officer, not the captain. This is the part that surprises people. The captain, the master, is asleep, 2 decks down, in his cabin, in his pajamas, like anyone else. The person actually responsible for the ship right now, for thousands of sleeping passengers, and where this vessel goes and what it avoids, is the officer of the watch. That's the deck officer whose shift it is to, functionally, drive. And the rule that governs him is beautiful in its simplicity. If he's ever in doubt about anything, a contact on the radar, a weather shift, a light on the horizon that won't resolve, calling the master early is never the wrong call. Wake the captain at 3 in the morning over something that turns out to be nothing? Fine. That's the system working exactly as designed. Which leaves one nagging thought, the one you'd have standing there in the dark. It's a big ocean and a long, quiet night. What if the one person driving simply nods off? The ship thought of that before you did. There's a device on the bridge whose entire job, its only job, is to make sure the watch officer is still awake. It's called the Bridge Navigational Watch Alarm System, and the plain English version is this. It's a dead man switch for the person steering the ship. Every few minutes, he has to physically reset it, press a button, touch a panel, prove he's alert. If he doesn't, it doesn't quietly log the lapse. It escalates. First, a prompt on the bridge, then a louder alarm. And if he still hasn't answered, it starts waking up other officers in their cabins 2 decks away. Because if the man on watch has gone silent, somebody needs to be walking to the bridge right now. A machine that watches the watchman, wakes the ship if he blinks too long. That's what's running while you sleep. And once that lands, the whole ship reframes itself. If they've engineered the quiet hours that carefully up top, what's happening everywhere else? Come down from the bridge and head to the middle of the ship and follow your nose. It's around 3 a.m. now, the deadest hour on any passenger deck. And somewhere below you, an oven door is opening. Because here's the thing you never think about when you're standing at the buffet in the morning, holding a plate, reaching for a warm croissant like it simply materialized. Somebody made that. They made it hours ago while you were asleep. The onboard bakery runs 24 hours a day. It does not close. And there's an entire overnight kitchen shift built around a single principle, which is that if the night crew doesn't pre-prep the day's food, the morning turns into chaos nobody recovers from. So through the small hours, a night cook is cutting, roasting, portioning, baking. Tomorrow's bread, tomorrow's proteins, the mise en place for thousands of breakfasts, staged and waiting so that when the 5 a.m. breakfast cooks clock in, they're finishing a race that was mostly run in the dark. And the scale of it is genuinely hard to hold in your head. On the largest ships afloat, the galley teams turn out something like 30,000 meals a day, hundreds of chefs, more than 20 separate kitchens, and the grocery bill to feed that runs around $1 million a week. Here's the number that actually makes it real, though. A mid-sized ship, nothing record-breaking, can go through roughly 7,000 croissants in a single day. 7,000. And a big share of those come out of the ovens overnight, staged for a breakfast rush that hasn't woken up yet. Picture that tray. Then picture the 60 trays behind it. Which is worth pausing on, because we call this food free. It's included, we say. It isn't free, obviously. It's baked into your fare, $1 million a week provisioning operation you paid into the moment you booked. And what your fare actually bought wasn't just the croissant. It was the fact that the croissant is warm and waiting and required zero thought from you. That effortlessness is the product. It got manufactured overnight by people you'll never meet, so your morning could feel like it just happened. The food's only part of the overnight shift, though. Step out into the corridors and you'll find the rest of it moving. This is when the deep cleaning happens, the real cleaning, the kind that can't happen at noon with 3,000 people walking around. Public rooms get scrubbed and reset. Carpets, glass, railings, the spots you'd never notice until they weren't done. Supplies get restocked for the day ahead. And far below all of it and spaces you'll never set foot in, the ship's heavy machinery is doing its loudest, dirtiest work on purpose right now, treating wastewater, desalinating seawater into the fresh water you'll shower in, monitoring fuel and emissions, all of it scheduled overnight, deliberately, so that none of it interrupts your day. The seamless daytime you experience is built on a nighttime you never see. So the ship is being driven, fed, and scrubbed while you sleep, which leaves the strangest part of the night, the empty part. Walk the outer decks at 4 in the morning and they're deserted. No one at the railings, no one in the loungers, just wind and dark water. It feels like the least supervised place on the whole ship. It's more watched than it looks. The emptiest deck isn't the unwatched one. Think about what's actually out there. Security officers are patrolling on a continuous loop through the night. The ship never stops being staffed. Those railings you're leaning on any vessel sailing from a U.S. port, they're required to stand at least 42 inches high, a number written specifically so that nobody simply tips over the edge, and written with these exact dark, empty hours in mind. And a growing number of modern ships now carry thermal and infrared camera systems designed to catch movement over the side, technology built for precisely the moment when the decks are emptiest and no human eye is pointed that way. It's not universal yet. Plenty of ships still rely mostly on cameras that get reviewed after the fact rather than watched in real time. But the direction is clear, and on the ships that have it, the quietest edge of the vessel is wrapped in some of the most attentive technology on board. Which is usually the point where, lying in your cabin, you'd start asking the practical questions, like, if I actually needed something at 3 in the morning, is anyone even there? Yes, fully. Guest services is staffed around the clock. That desk is not a daytime counter, it's a 24-hour node. Locked out of your cabin at 2 a.m. and need a key card? Someone's there. Turned around and lost in a corridor? Someone's there. Feeling genuinely unwell and unsure who to call? That desk is the switchboard that routes you. The ship keeps its front office lit all night long because a city of thousands doesn't get to close. And the second question, the one that usually follows right behind it, do these people ever actually sleep? Is any of this even legal? It is, and it's watched more closely than almost anything else on board. The overnight crews work rotating watches under maritime rest hour rules that set hard minimums on time off, and those duty periods get logged and audited, not as a courtesy, because the industry knows the small hours are exactly when a tired mind makes the expensive mistake, and so the romance of the quiet night actually runs on a compliance spreadsheet. The night shift is one of the most regulated things on the whole ship. So, pull back for a second and look at the entire night at once. None of what you just walked through was an emergency. Nothing went wrong. This wasn't a special night. This is every night, on every sailing. The moment the passenger city goes dark, this second city boots up, drives, bakes, scrubs, watches, and then does the whole thing again the next night and the next for the length of the cruise. And then you wake up. You wander up in the morning, a little bleary, and the deck is spotless. The coffee's hot. The ship is precisely where the itinerary said it would be.
and it all feels like it simply arranged itself while you rested. It didn't. It was driven there by someone in the dark, cleaned by someone you'll never see, watched over by patrols, by railings built to a number, by a machine that makes sure the watchman never blinks. And that croissant you're reaching for, the warm one, the one that feels like it just appeared, it's not a morning pastry. It's the last thing the night shift made before they handed the ship back to you.
That's another one for the cruise files. If you want to learn more about what goes on behind the giant cruise ships, everything from the scams on board to the secrets below deck, subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.